All right, Bang Bang. Today is Friday. It's June 25th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. True Crime Friday. True Crime Alley, you're back. How are you today?
I am back and better than ever.
Good. Good to hear. We have the first, I think this is the first we've done of this. So on our Tuesday episodes, I do with Chief about like tinfoil and whatnot. So like we do a ton of updates. So like we do the updates on like the Samsung CEO debacle or mystery, I should say. We've done a bunch of Epstein updates. And we like to give updates on like cases we covered.
Yeah.
So it just turns out a couple weeks ago, update came on, I would say a pretty damn interesting one. I know.
A big update.
Yeah, one of the more interesting ones like that I've really locked into, I would say, with Honey and Barry Sherman in Canada.
Yes.
The Billionaires, if you remember, that were found dead and they were tied up in their pool.
Yep.
And it was just so strange. No one really knew. There was cryptic emails and there was just a bunch of weird shit. So we could get into it. But before we do, I do want to talk about Miller Lite here, Allie.
Ooh, okay.
You like Miller Lite?
I do.
Good. So, like, I mean, everyone's been in awkward situations, you know? Like, you know, whether it be at a graduation party or, like, on an airplane. You know, maybe you don't want to talk to do you talk to the person next to you? I know no?
Headphones on.
Are you?
Eyes forward.
Yeah, but some, you know what I mean?
Unless it's cool. Unless it's, like, I don't know. You can just tell if someone's next to you that's, you know, it's cool. It's like another, like, young girl or something.
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah. You'll hang out. And Because you got a flight coming up to L.A. Miller Lite's always there to kind of take the edge off of an awkward situation. So that's what's great. You don't have to worry about shit. You can just sit there, have fun with friends, or even if it's that, you know. Be like, hey, you're drinking a Miller, she's drinking a Miller. You guys could enjoy your flight. So go do that in a world filled of seltzers, IPAs, Radlers, whatever it is. Miller Lite's going to be there for you. We can guarantee you that. So next time you're getting beers with friends, make it Miller time. Luckily, you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer, or you can go to MillerLite.com/redline to find the delivery options near you. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Before we go again, I also want to talk about Roman swipes, okay? Most guys have tried different ways to last longer in bed, but thinking about baseball, you know, saying the Pledge of Allegiance in your head, counting backwards from 10, thinking about former flight numbers that you've taken. I don't know why I'm stuck on the flights, Allie, but I am. Whatever. It's just your foolproof method probably isn't that foolproof, so that's why you need these Roman swipes. They're clinically proven as a way to help you last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and they're fast acting, but they don't require a prescription. Roman can ship swipes to you in discreet, unmarked packaging, and each swipe packet is small enough to hide in your wallet for whenever you need it. They're super easy to use. Just take the swipe out of the packet, swipe it on, let it dry, and you're good to go. That's it. Go to GetRoman.com/dogwalk, and you can get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/dogwalk. Go get your swipes. I mean, I don't see what anyone has to lose. It could be a good thing. So just go get them, try them out. It's a good thing. Like I keep saying, GetRoman.com/dogwalk. Go get your swipes. Okay, so what exactly got released here from Honey and Barry Sherman? Like it's sealed documents or something? I never know like the correct terminology.
Yes, some sealed documents got released. And now this was kind of a rabbit hole that they went down on this stuff because, so if you remember, first of all, if you haven't listened to the Honey and Barry Sherman episode, you need to go listen to that first because you're not going to know what we're talking about. This is going to mean nothing to you, or it's going to spoil the surprise. And two, for those of you who did listen to it, like you said, brief synopsis, the billionaire couple in Canada that were found in their home in the lower level in their pool room, tied to the pool railing with belts that were fastened around their necks. They were slumped over, half sitting up, and their jackets were halfway down the back of their arms. So their arms were, restrained.
And if you want to go listen, it's from March 18th.
Oh, good.
Okay, it was a two-parter, actually. That's the one we did, March 18th and 19th. It was back-to-back. So
yes, okay.
You'll be able to go listen back to that. It's a very interesting one, so just point of reference.
It is. And this was like you said, this was in Canada. And they were, billionaires because of, Barry, was a renowned businessman, was obviously very successful in it, We kind of compared it in the original episodes. We compared it to like this happening to the Kardashians here. So 2021 marked 4 years since Honey and Barry Sherman were mysteriously found dead in their $1 million home in Canada. Within this past 2 weeks, the Supreme Court of Canada actually ruled in favor of releasing documents related to the Sherman's estate. They ruled that they needed to be unsealed. Now, in any sort of just, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill case, but those who are not billionaires, this would be public record. It was sealed. In this case, this is obviously kind of a one-off case where you're dealing with someone who's worth a lot, has a lot going on. It just has, a lot more semantics that are involved in it, which is why these were sealed in the first place. Now, this means that Supreme Court of Canada ruled in favor of the media being able to access the documents regarding who was in line to essentially inherit Honey and Barry's assets. Now, originally, like I said, these files got sealed. They would not have normally been sealed, but they did get sealed because the estate, when the double murder happened, they argued that the files needed to be sealed because the parties involved, one, did not need, the public eye was already very much on them and looking into every detail of their life and bombarding their lives. So they argued the public does not need to look even farther into their personal details, their personal finances, what have you. And they also argued that it could be a safety risk because of who these people were. It's kind of fair. Kind of. Mm-hmm. Now, as soon as these documents, and at that time, when the estate argued this, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled in favor of the estate and they sealed the documents. Now, 4 years later, they're ruling in favor of the public and unsealing these documents. Now, as soon as these files were sealed originally, the Toronto Star actually went to court to challenge this violation of the principles. First of all, they were challenging the principles of open courts, that this was violating that. They were not making this public knowledge. And they were violating the constitutional rights to, freedom of speech, freedom of information, the whole 9 yards, going down that road of we should have access to these files. Now, taking another look at them, it was, I guess, decided to, Toronto Star took them to court and the Supreme Court of Canada decided they were going to keep them sealed. The Toronto Star, however, appealed this again. And as we know, they have won on the grounds that, one, the estate could not prove that the parties involved were actually at a safety risk if the files were to be unsealed. You can, I guess, argue either way that this could be a means to a safety risk, but there was no direct safety risk saying if these files are unsealed, this person is going to be in danger. And that was not it. Think about it, again, in terms of the Kardashians. If this happened to one of them, everybody would want to look into their personal lives, the records of their estates, and yeah, it could cause, total chaos in,
Yeah, or think of it even like if there's a situation where it was like Tupac and Biggie, like something where like there was gang violations, you know what I mean? And
right.
People would want to, this guy did this, They
right.
could just rise more tensions and stuff like that. Totally.
Right. So I can see why the estate would argue that. And also, like we said, they're already looking into every single detail of their life. It could potentially hinder the investigation as far as same with like kind of how the police do. They never divulge all the information that they have so that they can use it in their case of figuring out who done it. The estate can kind of argue the same thing as far as like, we don't want all of their information out there because it could hinder the investigation. Now, again, after taking another look at it, the Toronto Star had won after they had appealed it, and the police have now, they have said, they come out with in the past couple of weeks that they said they have multiple persons of interests. Mm-hmm. So, this is pretty interesting because when we talked in the first couple episodes, it was kind of up in the air. There was like a couple people that could have looked suspicious, but no one that was like sticking out really. Now,
what was it? There was a business partner. There was a son.
Business partner.
There was a random car in the driveway. Okay.
There's a lot of like little things that could have looked suspicious. Like if you want them to look suspicious, they could have. But no one that was like, oh, I saw this person with blood and a gun in their hand, kind of thing. So Jonathan Sherman, who is the son, actually revealed to police over these past 4 years that the Shermans actually had more enemies than people had thought initially at the time. It makes sense. These people are literally billionaires. This guy is in business. He's constantly going to court over this, that, and the other thing. I mean, yeah, you're going to have enemies. When you're that high up, when you have that much money, you're going to have enemies regardless. Now, that's according to Jonathan Sherman, though. So as we know, like Jonathan he was bitter about that other guy that Barry was helping. He was trying to get the money. He was trying to take, power of attorney over his parents, yada, yada, yada. So you take it with a grain of salt. Now, police have not updated the public formally on the Sherman case. And this is kind of where we differ. So as far as like an update goes on this case, it's not the police coming to us saying, here's our update on this case. Here are our main suspects. This is what we're looking for. This update is more so the Supreme Court has ruled to unseal these documents, and this is what we're going to get out of it. So these documents are a 300 pages worth of documents that you can look into. Now, it's got
that's a lot.
A lot of stuff in there. That's like a novel. It has updates. It does have updates about the investigation, though, like these documents just in general. They requested within these documents, there's multiple requests for search warrants that the police had put in. And the police put in search warrants or requests for search warrants for the Sherman's phones, their bank account information, their health information, their computers that were found in the home, the computers that were found in the office and the labs that Barry worked in. So the police put in for everything. They wanted to search everything, as they should. I mean, the police had their work cut out for them on this case. There was so much to go through, especially because these people are in the public eye. Now, back in February 2018, police were looking into the possibility of this being a financially driven homicide, double homicide. And this is because Barry's company, so they thought initially, okay, this could have some financial motive to it because there was a $500 million court case involving a drug patent that had laid off, that Apotex, which was Barry's company, had gone through. And so essentially Apotex won this lost this $500 million court case. The company had just laid off a significant amount of staff members, and they were about to make another round of cuts as well. So police look at this and they're like, okay, somebody within the lines of either being involved in that court case or one of like an angry employee that was laid off or potentially about to be laid off, this could have something behind it, which I guess is fair.
And we didn't talk about that in the first episode.
We didn't know that.
Yeah, that was not okay.
That was part of what was released in these documents. Now, it was also said though, like, essentially one of the judges made a comment on the court case itself, being, yes, it is $500 million, but even the judge was like, that is literally chump change to these people. They are billionaires. Like, yes, that's a lot of money, but it's nothing that it would be like, us losing $100.
I mean, massive companies do weird shit and shady shit all the time. Not saying that it was this, but they get fined all the time and they just pay it.
Right. And so this again, it was over a drug patent. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if it was shady or not. That was just my example, but like. Big companies break the law all the time, and they pay big fines. Like that's part of the
they go to court. The people sue people for everything. So,
Correct.
It could have some value to it, but it's nothing. No smoking gun by any means. Now, Jack Kay was Barry's business partner. It kind of does same along the lines of us. He does not agree that this was financially driven or driven by the business by any means. And if it were, it would have been done in kind of a more tidier way, almost like kill him and get in and get out, not leave this like mysterious crime scene with, the whole 9 yards of like, it was more of a personal attack than just being like an attack over losing money or losing your job. Police also requested search warrants to look into where the Sherman's money was coming and going from to see if this was financially driven. I mean, right then and there, you've seriously got your work cut out for you because these people had so much money between Barry and the business and between their personal money as well. That's a lot to look into. Now, a good deal of the requests for the warrants, like if you're going to go read these actual documents that got unsealed, they are heavily redacted. And it's because this is still an ongoing investigation. So you can release them, but there's pertinent information to the investigation that the public still cannot know because no one has been brought to trial, and it could heed the investigation. Now, it doesn't show, what is redacted is it doesn't show very much detail into what the police's discoveries as far as, so we have that they requested these warrants to search these things, but if anything that was found, either in the phones, the medical records, the financials, what have you, is redacted, again, due to this case being unsolved. So it's kind of like a chip into what they are looking at, but not what they have found. And actually, one interesting thing was police documents actually that are in these unsealed documents reveal that the Shermans were most likely dead 36 hours before they were discovered. I mean, that could change how you look at this case entirely. We knew that they had been dead for a while just because of the state that their body was in, but now we know it's, we've got a more exact number of 36 hours, and that's a long period of time.
Because weren't they at a dinner before that or something, if I remember correctly?
They were at like a meeting.
They were at like a meeting? Yeah, something. Okay.
So they were at a meeting
Yeah.
at the offices about their building their new home. And Honey had gone home. Barry had stayed another couple hours to do some work, what have you. Honey was like in contact with her sister and then all of a sudden stopped responding. Now we've got that they were dead 36 hours before they were discovered. So somebody had a big chunk of time to where after Honey stopped responding, Barry got home to kill these people before anyone was about to find them. And one individual who routinely worked in the home actually stated that Honey never went downstairs to the basement, which is where the pool room was, because she had bad legs. And they were in their 70 and 75. So she had bad legs. It was hard for her to go up and down the stairs. So she never went downstairs. So the fact that they were found downstairs,
means that they were probably brought down there.
Right. Means that, it alludes to that they were either forced down there or they were carried down there after they were already dead. So that's pretty interesting. It also, these documents touch on the fact that the two that showed up at the house initially, that day before they were found dead, the trainer and the housekeeper, that was the first time in the 3 years that those two individuals had worked for the family that the house alarm was switched. And now that's, seems intentional in and of itself. So we're kind of getting these little looks into
more of it being an inside job, probably.
Some sort of, not a break-in. Somebody who knew the property.
That knew what was going on a little bit.
Which is kind of a big pool in and of itself.
That was suspected anyways from the jump, right? So
yeah, because it was such a personal
attack.
But more so this person having to know be able to know the home, to know.
Yeah, so like a real inside job. Someone who was there.
Yeah.
Someone who
know that nobody's going to be there for that amount of time to do this, to switch the house alarm, to do the whole 9 yards. So it just opens it up to being that this was a more personal job than maybe we had initially even thought. It also, this 300 pages of documents, it gives an insight into who the Shermans were as people, their relationships with one another within their family. There was stuff, I think we briefly touched on this in our original episodes of, Honey and Barry Sherman didn't always have the best relationship. Not necessarily like, abusive, violent or anything, but kind of that controlling. They weren't always on the same page. It wasn't always great. But at the time that they were murdered, they were totally fine. There was nothing going on. So because this case was originally looked at as a murder-suicide on Barry, which was, relatively quickly ruled out. And we know that was not the case anymore. It couldn't even, from the physical state that they were found in and the evidence, it couldn't possibly have been the case anyways. But it does look into their relationship with their kids and within the family, just like the kind of people that the Shermans were, what they did with their money, who they were in contact with and what they were in contact with anybody about, and insight into kind of also their business. I mean, this was Barry's business, so this is directly linked to him. It's worth a lot of money. It's got a lot to do with it. This is a lot of looked into, hence the 300 pages. But interestingly enough, I mean, these people are billionaires. Honey Sherman did not have a will at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
Very strange. And
Especially as an older guy.
Yeah. Barry had 2. Barry had 2 wills. Honey had none. And this actually does give solid insight into, and we touched on this briefly as well, the fact that Barry very much controlled Honey's spending. Because this is to me a very clear statement that Barry's this is my money. I'm going to choose where all of our estate goes, all of our money goes, and Honey, you get nothing because I earned this money. This is my company.
Yeah.
That right there gives a lot of insight into what's going on the interweaving of this family.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Possibly.
Unless if she just stayed out of it. You never know.
Unless she wanted nothing to do with it.
You just
she
never
was know. She was definitely a spender, but I don't know what weight that held in her.
Yeah.
What that held to her, but
that could have been it. That could have been.
It is odd though that these people were worth so much money. I mean, a lot of people have wills, right? People who are not billionaires have wills. So just because they're billionaires and have a will, it doesn't mean they're gonna have a will just because they're billionaires. And so even if Honey was worth nothing, it's still kind of strange that she doesn't have a will.
Yeah.
Right? Even for whatever, it's be oh, I want this piece of jewelry to go to this kid or this, whatever. It was discovered that the assets were worth, I misspoke on the $500 million thing. The assets of Barry's total wills were worth $124 million, which this is actually what the judge referred to as chump change, not the $500 million. That was me misspeaking. But it's interesting that Barry's assets, I guess his wills, what I believe to be his personal assets, nothing to do with the business, was $124 million, which these guys are billionaires. Again, this is a somewhat insignificant amount to all that they are told, especially if you include the business and everything, that would just skyrocket it.
A lot more.
Now, one of the articles that I went through as well on this said that the estate was essentially to be split up evenly among all 4 children at the time that they turned 35. So for it to be, which is interesting because we initially looked, and I personally was backing the Jonathan theory, that this was, he had something to do with this. If this is like truly what the estate is broken up into, I mean, it's not like Jonathan was in line to get it all, right? He had to split it evenly with his siblings, and each one got their share when they turned 35. So,
did he know the will though?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so that could be it too. Like maybe he was under the assumption that it would be more. So,
and he could also, I think a lot is needs to be deciphered on, was it being who was focusing on what they're going to get from the personal estate, and who was focusing on the business side of it.
mm-hmm.
Because if Jonathan was the one who like wanted the business, that could steer a motive in its own direction,
Mm-hmm.
versus like if they just wanted like his parents' money,
Yeah,
or their house or whatever it may be. I mean, $124 million, that's still a lot of money. Even if someone is like, oh, that's chump change to these people,
it's a lot.
that's still a lot of money.
Totally.
Depending. So it's interesting to kind of take a look at that. And I would be interested to see if there's more insight to come on, like, if Jonathan himself was struggling with money, if he thought that even like 124 million divided by 4, if that was still even enough for him. Like if he were the one.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, no. I was going to say, but that doesn't really include Honey because she didn't have a will. But if Barry were to die, then it would have gone to Honey. So he would have known that he had to take out both of them
Mm-hmm.
to get it to be his turn, or to get him in line for it.
Yeah.
So an interesting update, overall. Again, it goes into a lot of the semantics of the estate and how that's to be broken up, and then briefly into what the police are looking at. What the police have found is still kind of under lock and key. They have said that they have multiple persons of interests, which is different than a suspect. So no one has been brought to like suspect status yet. But hopefully this is a means to more updates to come. Both of us are very invested in this case, and I think it's going to take a very long time to figure it out, just because of the sheer volume of stuff they have to go through and the high profile, being that this is a very high profile case. But I also think that with it being such a public and high profile case, that when anything is figured out, like, the public
will know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So that multiple persons of interest.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 36-hour window.
We know the 36 hours.
When it comes to like codes and everything like that, we think it was someone who was familiar with the house.
Uh-huh.
We know that Honey never went downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
We know Honey didn't have a will. And
Barry had two.
We know how Barry had two and how it was kind of broken down. So I guess if you had a theory before, kind of rework that or take it for what you will. But that's what wasn't sealed.
This one's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
This one's a really tough one.
We'll see. I mean, the manner of which they were found is just so odd, and they're just so high profile that it's an interesting case.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully they find out what happened to him.
It's been 4 years. I mean, the house has been knocked down.
Yeah,
the house
I was
has been
going to say
destroyed,
the house was demoed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right then, Allie. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, everybody. That's it for today. That's it for this week. But we'll see you guys all again on Monday.